All right, welcome back for another week of lens crafting. Last week we were looking at one of the aspects of our worldviews, and again, the worldviews being just kind of your perspective on the world and the universe. It's a lot of philosophy that we've been going through here, but though it's important stuff because when there's a lot of this that tries to bleed its way into Christianity, and so we want to look at on these different topics, how can we view these things through the lens of the Bible? So last week we did the nature of truth itself. How do we know what is true and how can we verify it? And this week we're doing reality. So getting even more existential than last week, which is impressive.
Well, I think your title there, lens crafting, is a really good way to view it because I have a different pair of glasses sitting right here that are my normal glasses for walking around everyday life. But when I sit on the computer here, I have bifocals, so I can't actually see the screen in front of me because it's so close. My lenses are not designed to be able to see and only have my arm distance away in front of me. These ones they're computer glasses, so they're designed. Now, if I get up and walk around the house, I can only see about 6 to 8 feet in front of me, and then everything past that's a blur. So these ones also have, I don't know if you can see it, a nice red hue on them. I love that. So I intentionally put that to color things a certain way when I look through them. So it's like your worldview colors things. And then as you look through it a certain way, like my eyes have gotten progressively weaker over the years. I don't notice it until someone points out something that I'm missing and I don't see. And that's, I think, hopefully what you're trying to bring here is to point out things that maybe people don't see because they have a lens on and there's something they're missing. But if they switch the lens they're looking through, they'll learn and see something new. So I love your theme there. It's super cool.
Exactly. No, that is 100% what we're trying to get at here. And also this week on the panel, we've got a new person to the panel. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry. I always just make the assumption everybody knows me. I'm FlatCap Dapper Pastor. I have been a pastor in physical churches for 20 plus years. Before that, doing other ministry within the church. Found my way over into the Twitch space about 5 years ago, and that is where God has me right now. I am the Tangible Resource Director, I know, wonderful title there, for thechurch.digital. We are a digital missionary sending agency, and so we help people to be able to think through how are you able to be a digital missionary or a missionary in digital spaces. Some of those are physical missionaries trying to figure out how to do digital because the church just needs to go underground, and how do you create community and keep people safe. And others are saying, God's calling me here, but I don't know what it means to be a missionary. So we will help you to think through each platform as a place, and as you move into it, knowing the culture, knowing about, how you set up things, learning from them before you just go in and you take all of your baggage and you actually don't help people find Jesus. Instead, you chase them away. So that's part of what I do over there. And then I am the outpost director for all of the people that are in the gaming realm. So that's where I spend my time. And I just have so many other things that I do. I wear lots of hats, and I wear hats in real life and all over the place and in person, and I wear all kinds of different hats and connect with a lot of different ministries.
Indeed. Yes. Be sure to go and check out his ministry on Twitch over at twitch.tv/FlatCap Dapper Pastor, where he does all sorts of cool streams in the mornings, as well as the church digital itself. Absolutely. So this week, we are talking about, as I started to explain, where's my slide controller? There we go. Metaphysics. Yeah. Also, I'm realizing I should probably share the slides with you. I'm realizing I never did that. There is a slideshow.
Well, I have the list. If it's just a development of the list you sent me, I'm good.
Okay, dokes. Well, in Twitch Stream Together, I'm now sharing the screen if you wish, but anyways.
Oh, okay, I see it. That's cool. Awesome. I didn't know you could do that. That's cool.
Oh, it's very nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got we've got quite a bit to get through here. So starting off, one of the branches of metaphysics that we're going to kind of start with is ontology, which is, it's also known as general metaphysics, and basically what it has to do with is what are realities, right? So is there a spiritual realm? Is it just a physical realm? Or is there neither, and we are just a perception of our spiritual selves? That is one that we'll get into, but put a pin in that. I know, but
yeah, that's actually the one I want to jump at first, but I'll wait.
Yeah. So we're going to start unpacking those, and we're going to start with the one that I guess most people associate with Christianity and is associated with Christianity, which is dualism, which is a view that both a spiritual world and a physical world coexist, right? So we would say that we have a soul, right? Yeah. That would fall under dualism here, and even within dualism there are other camps, because some would say that like mental, there might not be a soul per se, but though your mind would be in its own realm or something like that.
Yeah, your consciousness that you have is its own thing that exists in a realm, and if you go down that path, you can get into the consciousness that is a universal consciousness that you might be able to tap into. So you could tap into ancestral consciousness or the collective consciousness of everyone who exists currently. That kind of goes down, if you want to see this played out in Hollywood or in that realm, would be like the Borg hive mind, how you have this consciousness that is out there. It's kind of ethereal, and you can tap into it and then connect with others. So yeah, there's a few other branches out there too that get fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I didn't go through and list out all of the different branches. I didn't know what we would have time for. But though I think it is good to define, like, yeah, so what do Christians believe in that regard? Like, is there a distinction between the mind and the soul? Like, is there a consciousness that is separate from the soul, right?
It really, I think there are different views on that are in there, and one of the things that leads us to in that direction is being able to divide soul from spirit is part of what it says within the New Testament. But if you look at the Old Testament, it didn't talk about mind; it always talked about your heart, your heart being the seat. But it's a matter of, like, as we might say, your gut feeling. Your gut could lead you to do things. So we use similar kind of language. So we're not talking, exactly physically when we say that. We're talking about those other parts of us that are non-physical. And there seems to be, on some level, we know that's, if we're going biblical worldview, that we were created a physical being, and then breath of life was given into us, and we became a living being. So there we have the foundation of the dualism. It's just, how do you take that on later throughout Scripture to say, well, this seems to make a category between mind and spirit, or soul and spirit consciousness, and our part that is going to be eternal without our bodies, that kind of piece. So there's that part that comes in. And different Christians take different passages to emphasize which part they fall into.
Yeah, with the heart, the way I've often heard it explained is it's like the control center of your person, right? So it's a lot of what we end up doing and thinking stems out of the heart. So it's not there's a distinction between our thoughts and our heart, but they all flow out of the heart.
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. I've kind of looked at the difference between Hebrew scriptures. We use a reference of heart because we're living in a more ancient culture. And when we get to the New Testament, those thinkings shift because we're in a Greek mindset. So we move to an intellectual approach to things rather than a seat of the heart. But we're getting at some of the same things. Is if what we have is I am an evil person, and then that's what's within me, then what comes out of my mouth are evil deeds. If I'm a good person, if I'm following after and I'm a loving person, what flows out of my mouth is loving. Whether that's in my mind or my heart, I don't know if it makes a difference. You can debate those things of where does the seat of where the person is. I like the way you described it. I wouldn't say anything wrong with it. I'm just saying some people will see it more in the Greek mindset and it's an intellectual assent, and others will say it's the persona of who you are that's the seat of it, and then they're really looking at more the Old Testament view on it.
Interesting. Gotcha. Interesting. Speaking of Greek views, though, one of the I did want to cover one of those Greek views because it comes up quite a bit throughout like Christian history, and that is Gnosticism.
Yep. You didn't have this on the original list, but I'm not surprised you wanted to bring it up.
True. Yeah, when I gave you the original list, I was like, I knew I wanted to bring it up somewhere. I just wasn't sure where, because it fits under dualism more so. It's not its own thing. It's not. It is,
and you've got a nice description there. But essentially, Gnosticism, which Gnostic is the word for knowledge. So there wasn't a per se one group of people with one set teachings. There's a whole collection of people who in different places thought there was secret knowledge. So you might have 5 different regions and they all thought the knowledge that was secret was different, but you wouldn't know because they didn't share the secret knowledge. So it's a philosophy, it's a lens that they're looking through. And primarily what it is, it's coming from a Greek idea that the body is evil, that the body is bad, that we are spirits and we're trapped within a body. So if we can escape the body, the spirit is good, the body is evil. This is partly what Paul is addressing in some places where people think, and you can see this in John too, they're starting to address it even early on in the writings of the New Testament, and like proto Gnosticism is creeping in. But it's kind of like, well, I can do whatever I want in the body. The body is sin, but that's okay because the body is just sinful. So I can do whatever I want so long as my heart is actually pursuing Jesus and God, then I can be right with God. My body can do whatever it wants and ignore that. And it's like, you look on your face like, that's exactly right. Like, no, you can't. But it's part of the thinking behind it is it didn't matter what you did in the body because the body was sinful. So you can go murder. I'm just using it as an example. I don't know if they actually thought murder per se, but I can go murder in the body because the body is evil. And I might even be freeing somebody from the trappings of the body. So I'm setting them free. So I'm actually doing something beneficial. So why would I have consequences in the body only? And I want to get free of it and only be spirit. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes in that direction when you do have dualism, but you're not viewing it from a standpoint of a biblical worldview per se. You're viewing it from an intellectual assent, or I want to gain something that's secretive and I want to escape the body.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I mean, even going into like, 1 Corinthians 15, I believe, where he talks about how like we will have a resurrection body, right?
Yeah.
That goes very much against Gnosticism, because Gnosticism would say that's like you want to escape a body. To go back into a body is absurd to them. And so say that there's a resurrection, that would be absurd to them as well.
Yeah, and I would say it does creep in. The whole body spirit dynamic does creep in. You can hear it at times in what people say, and they describe things. And I would say on some level it might be slightly different. I don't know if like this isn't my area of expertise, so I don't know if this really falls under the idea of Gnosticism or it's just another heresy in there. But the idea that God needed another angel, we become angels, is a is, I think, rooted in that whole thing of the body is a problem. And so if we become angels, we become angelic, we have freed ourselves from the evil that is a body and that we're trapped in, and we go in that direction. Now, I know there's also just cultural level of we say it and we're not actually thinking about it. We're not actually following through with any ideas behind it. We just say it colloquially to encourage people, whether we believe it or not. But I think there's a root of that that's hidden in Gnosticism too, or even, I'm not picking on this song, but the "I'll Fly Away, Oh Glory" has a tinge of I'm leaving the body and the body is bad. But there's also the element of I'm going to be with the Lord. That's also good. So it's like right on that edge of I'm not saying the song's bad, but some people might get wrong views if you don't couple that with other things that you're teaching.
Exactly. No, yeah. And Creepy Pro in chat saying that a lot of world religions today have Gnosticism to a degree. Yeah, absolutely. There's there's Gnosticism in more places than you'd think, right? Because there's anywhere that you see this concept of like you have to ascend physically and escape things. Man, I should have looked into
well, Gnosticism, specifically the historical part, does have that view of the body being evil. Not all other forms of Gnosticism that might be out today totally have that. Some of them are just about secret knowledge. So if you have to attain a certain level within the organization, within the religion, within the, I'll just say, cult, you don't get info until you've achieved double secret probation. If you know that reference, it has nothing to do with this, but it's just fun to say. If you get to be able to be on double secret probation, and not just on probation and not on secret probation, you get all of those combined together, then you get to find out the secret thing that nobody knows about. Even like secret groups. Like I'm trying to think of, what's the show? I know like different Skull and Bones group. At college, you could be in that secret group there. Wednesday, that's what I was trying to think. There at Wednesday, if you've watched that show, there's a secret group that you have to be able to be invited into. So there's those forms of secret groups that have this tradition that kind of like you have secret knowledge that you don't share with everybody. You have to get the right handshake to get in the club, and you don't get the info unless you're in.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm glad you brought that, because that's where my mind was going, was those kind of cults like Scientology. Oh gosh.
Yeah, that just got brought up in the chat. Yeah, the one and only Creepy Pro suggesting, Scientology has that. Mormonism does have some of that.
Yeah.
That I've heard of. Now, how much I don't fully know. Yeah. There's other things that are non-religious, like Freemasons, that also have some of that secret knowledge that you have to attain certain levels to be able to get some of that stuff. And then when you have a secret organization, people talk about you and say things that may or may not be true, and you can't defend yourself, because to defend yourself is to give away the secret knowledge.
Yeah, so they bite themselves in the butt with that one. Yeah. So, and it should be stated, like bringing it back to the Bible here, in terms of like secret knowledge or whatever, there is a degree to where like the Spirit has to illuminate our hearts for us to be able to truly obtain knowledge. But in terms of the like freeness of it, like you go back to Romans 1, you see that like everything that someone needs to know about God is evident to them.
Absolutely. And you also have within the language in several different places too, of the barrier of the dividing wall being taken down. So wherein previously, if you just take the temple whole complex, there's the court of the Gentiles, they can come this far. Then there's the court of the women, they can come here. Then there's the court of the circumcised men who can come into here. And then there is the Holy of Holies, which only one person one day a year can go into. So there was all of these different segregations. So you would have all of the separation of people. All of that's torn down, and there's neither Jew nor Greek, there's neither free nor slave. All are one. So if all are one, there's no secret knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, like, you go into, yeah, there are some like some Christian like denominations or whatever you might want to call them out there that try to restrict access to knowledge, and those are the ones that we would want to kind of like kind of fight back on the fact that knowledge is free for all to be able to obtain, right? There's not a secret level of it, nor do you need being the key word here to specific persons to interpret it for you.
Oh yeah. There is a level of that at times where our view is the only correct view. Mm-hmm. And so you tear down everyone else, and that shows up in various different ways. Mm-hmm. And it can show up at different parts of the whole, scriptures. It's, this is the thing that's right here. Anyone who does it differently is outside the body. Now, sure. People that add stuff to scriptures, I would say, sure, yeah, absolutely, they're outside. That's the easy call to make. Sometimes when we're internal, we get more focused on one thing and we amplify that and get our lens a little skewed in one direction, so we can only see everything through the lens of this has to fit. If it doesn't fit, you're outside, and we just argue you out instead of arguing you in.
Interesting, yes. And there is room to excommunicate someone in extreme circumstances where they are not repentant on things that are first level issues. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I had this experience within my denomination while I was in seminary. There was a church that was in the process of moving locations because all their people lived farther away, about an hour away. They had been in an inner city. The suburbs are out there. They sold to an inner city church. In the meantime, while they had not yet bought a property or built a property, the pastor started preaching that Jesus is not the only way to the Father. And so he had to be brought up on heresy charges because he's suddenly preaching that Jesus is not the way, the truth, and the life. So yeah, at times people go awry and they're out there, and you do need to step in. But there's other things that are just not as essential to the core of the faith. The thing is we might disagree on all the things that are core. I'll just say, I say there's 3 and you say there's 5, and one of us is right and one's wrong. Or I see 2 of those things slightly outside of it, and I'm like, I think they're essential, but they're not core. Those kinds of things.
Yeah. Yes. Oh boy. Yes, for sure. I don't really have a good way to transition into this.
Well, let me just one more thing on Gnosticism before we move forward. So if we go back to a biblical worldview, and we need to go back to creation, and this is where we need to go. We need to go back to Genesis 1 and 2. God created man. He breathed into him the breath of life, and man became a living being, and God said it was good. So the very idea that a physical body cannot be good and that it is evil is contrary to what Scripture teaches. Now, to say we don't have fallen bodies, we do. But God created us to have a body. So the whole notion that having a body is evil is contrary to a biblical worldview, because Genesis 1 and 2 tell us that God created humans from the dust of the ground with physical bodies, and that it was good. So to think a body alone of its own just being, that it's physical, is bad and evil. Not. We have a sin nature. We have all of that. We do evil. Fine. That's true. But just the idea that the physical part of us, it makes us evil. No, that's not biblical.
Absolutely. And also the fact that our bodies are redeemed and will be redeemed as well, right?
Yeah, you already pointed that part out. That's absolutely. We will have a resurrected body.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Going on top of that, though, another one that came up that came to mind is when Paul writes about sexual immorality and how that there is a sin against your body, and he describes the body as being the temple of God, right? So us as Christians, our bodies are redeemed now. So we cannot say that our bodies are completely evil. Otherwise, sexual immorality, the things that do do go against our own bodies there would be okay. It's not,
Right.
because it's a
It's
temple
not.
of God.
Exactly. Oh, that's a great point to bring in. I'm glad you brought that one in.
Yeah. But yes, anything else before we move on?
No, I think we were trying to figure out how to transition. I think that does transition us to then, well, okay, if the body is good, then are we just purely physical and there is no spiritual?
Yes. So we get into the two monism camps. Well, actually, there's three monism camps that I'm going to be bringing up. Monism, firstly, let's define that, is the view that there's a oneness or singleness to life. Either spiritual or physical, not both. Also, I'm realizing that you might want to open up the Google Doc that I gave you, because I think the outline, I moved some stuff around. So.
Oh, don't worry about it. If you just got to select, I'll flow with it. I'm fine.
Fair enough. But yes, so monism is more of this overarching camp that's there's one or the other, and so that brings us then into physicalism / materialism. I saw both terms come up during my research. Physicalism is a bit more broader, and it's a bit more of a modern concept that says that it includes things like matter, energy, and forces in space-time, things that can be explained with physics. So it would allow for energy to be a force, whereas materialism is more restrictive and would say that energy and things like that are they would have skepticism towards those.
Okay, I did not know that distinction there, and I think materialism is an older view, and this kind of has its maybe there's older versions of it before that, but there's the idea within the Enlightenment and following that maybe we are only a physical being. You know, you start to have things that are, as we discover the world around us and explore that, well, we can't prove scientifically that we have a spirit. So if we can't prove that there's a spirit, if we can't prove that there's a God, regardless of which God it is, if we cannot prove those things, then maybe all there is matter. And I think that's where materialism comes from, is the idea of matter, that the only thing that exists are things that you can touch, taste, smell, feel. If you cannot perceive it, it doesn't exist, which you're saying physicalism kind of goes, well, there's a few things that we know, like gravity, and other things that we can't see and experience. We can prove that those are there, so they have to be included.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Now, of course, this falls short to the biblical worldview, because they would absolutely deny the existence of a soul, a heart, those spiritual realities therein.
Because, well, if there is no God, then it's easy to go with, physicalism or materialism, because, well, all that exists then must be material, because if there is no God, there's no need to have a spiritual world. And if there is no spiritual world, which doesn't just include God, it includes, the angels, the demons, the Nephilim, the Watchers, whatever genre you're out there, and know about, all of those are excluded because they don't have physical bodies. Then they don't exist, and so unless they have a physical body, which in almost every religion there are spiritual beings. Yeah. So it really is only what I've seen, a more modern viewpoint to be able to take the stance that there is not a creator of everything, that we did come from something. It's only in a modern viewpoint have we decided to exclude a god or the gods from all the equations that are in there and say, no, the only thing that exists is what we can see, taste, and touch, smell, whatever it might be.
Oh, yes. And we will be diving into that even more when we go to cosmology, when we talk about the origins of the universe, because oh boy, is that a rabbit hole that we can get down into.
Oh yeah, we don't need to go down that one today. No.
Yes. But no, yes. So, anything else you wanted to add on this?
No, I'm just noticing a comment from this is always such a long name to read. the one and only Creepy Pro. Scientifically, not being able to prove something doesn't make it not true. You need to prove empirically that it is untrue for it to actually be untrue. Yes, true. Absolutely true. God can neither be proved nor disproved. Very good point that you're making. But there's also different levels of proof. So we don't prove things in a courtroom scientifically. We prove them beyond a reasonable doubt. That's how we prove in a courtroom. And then there's different evidence that gets put in to prove that. So evidence leads towards a conclusion.
Yes.
And scientifically, you need proof. But historically, you also don't need the same kind of proof. So there's different levels of proof depending upon the study realm that you're in. And so if we want theological proof, it's not scientific proof. So that would be a whole different way of thinking about it.
Yes. Yeah, and that is exactly what we talked about last week. If y'all missed last week's episode, make sure to go and check that out on the Theology channel over on the YouTubes, where we talk literally just about empiricalism and why and how that falls short, and you need rationalism to go along with that. But yes, moving on here though. So the next monism camp is idealism. So we're flipping the script here. This is the view that everything is mind and spirit fundamentally. This gets so weird and trippy because they believe that you are a spirit and everything physical is just being perceived by your spirit.
Yes. Okay. A good way to think through this is to think about the Matrix. Okay? What is actually in the Matrix does not exist. So if you had a spirit and you were connected in some way, the way that the Matrix connects your physical bodies, and then you don't actually move, you don't actually do anything, it's just all a simulation that's played. Your mind is participating, your spirit is participating, but you don't actually exist, and nothing you're perceiving actually exists either. Or there's another view of this. None of us actually exist. We are all just actually within the mind of one person who actually does exist. So this would be the whole idea of, think about a video game. Does the video game actually exist before you play the video game? Or does it only exist in the mind of the creator? And when you're playing the game, do you actually exist in the game? Or is that only part of being inside of the game that's in the mind of the creator? I'm trying to connect it so you can understand where this thinking goes. I hope that connects with people.
Yes, and it's very clear why that is kind of a ridiculous concept. But though, you also touched on what is known as absolute idealism, where there's basically one single ultimate mind that all minds are connected to.
That's kind of what I was trying to point at. One mind exists. Everything else is just within the mind of that one person. It's super trippy to think that way. I mean, to play through that and to follow the logical conclusions all the way to the end of that.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things that pops up in science fiction in different places.
Yeah.
And they play with it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with playing with those ideas and studying them to be able to understand, hey, I might encounter somebody that's coming from one of these other worldviews. I need to know how they think. I don't approach them by saying, you're an idiot, stop thinking that way. And they go, oh, you're right. Thank you for telling me. I will just think a different way now. They've come to those by some form of introduction to it, actual thought that they've put into it, and adoption as a worldview. So you're not going to just get them to change that in an instantaneous, you're wrong. Oh, why didn't nobody tell me before? I'll instantly change. So I may not encounter somebody that has all of these views. My awareness of them helps me to be able to say, hey, maybe they're coming from someplace else. What is it that they're approaching this from? How do I understand them better?
And that is the point of this series. Let's go. Yes. So idealism with this, just thinking about how that would impact your day to day. Like, if you had that as your lens, if you legitimately thought that, This is like I either that kind of matrixism, you could call it, where this is all a simulation, or just that there is only one consciousness, that we are just God's like dream or something like that. Then life wouldn't matter as much, right? Because I like the analogy you used about the video game, right? It would be the equivalent. There would be like if everything is, if the physical stuff isn't real, then you should be able to like stabby someone and
you get into fatalism that way. That everything I do, I was programmed to do. I didn't make any choices. It just happened. And so I shouldn't have consequences because I didn't do anything. It was already, and this is not the same as predestination. So don't go in that direction.
Yeah.
Okay. It is fatalism. The fates, and this comes from Greek philosophy. The fates are up there weaving together all of the things that you will do. And so you can maybe appeal to the fates to get out of something or to do something. But if you think through who assassinated somebody, it was their fate to do it. They are the ones who went to take an attempt on someone to be successful or not successful. They didn't really have any choice in it. That was their destiny, so to speak. It was foreordained by the fates. You still have to in some way have an external source in that. What you're saying is if there's just one mind controlling everything, then it doesn't matter what I do. Yeah.
Exactly. So it removes all moral consequences altogether. Yeah. All right. Anything else on this before we move on?
No, I don't think so.
All right. And the last of the three monism views, double aspect theory, the view that the mental and physical are two aspects of the same underlying substance. So there's not some of them would not give any distinguishment between mind and matter. And then others, especially in this like dual aspect monism, as it's also called, would say that there is some kind of third substance. I have a little chart here that kind of sums them all up. There's some kind of third substance that is greater than mind and matter, that is the real you. But it's not a soul per se. It's very unclear what it is, and depending on which cult you ask, they'll give a different answer.
Yeah, I don't know that one as well, but I think on some level it's the acknowledgement that there has to be something more, but my framework says this is all there is. So I have to put a name on that thing, maybe in the same way that the Greeks, as they were processing through things, said, well, we know all of these gods that we have, but they developed this idea of the logos. That was something that always existed before, because they have a whole pantheon that comes from. So they had to have something that was the ultimate before. And then you also have within the Hebrew tradition of wisdom always existing. So God always exists and wisdom always existed, because without wisdom, God couldn't have done the things. And you have them using the word for that wisdom that always existed as actually being logos as well, which is fascinating when you get into the book of John. I won't go down that rabbit trail of how John is simultaneously addressing both Greek and Hebrew philosophy at the same time, which is beautiful and wonderful.
Yes.
But I think it's that acknowledgement that we know there is something that we can't explain that's out there, but if I'm only materialistic, I don't know what to call it, because it has to be within materialism. So I got to mush everything into one, but there's something that doesn't fit. So we don't know what it is, but there's something else.
Yeah. So this here one specifically, I am probably going to butcher this name, so I'm putting it in the chat here. Baruch Spinoza is my best guess on how to pronounce that. Who believed that nature or God has infinite aspects, but man only has mind and matter. So looking at how so thinking about God as being transcendent and above. So in this camp, they wouldn't say that God is spirit. They would say God is that other thing. And humans have whatever that other thing is as well.
That seems a little bit out there. Like, I want to say the same thing as other people, but I don't want to say it the same way. and I don't know how to fit into the other thing. So I want to direct everything and then start my own thing. Is a little bit what that sounds like, but I've not run into that one before.
Yes. Yeah. No, I hadn't run into this one before I started looking this up this week either. But though, like, I mean, in terms of the three camps of monism, that kind of like neutral monism or a double aspect theory here is probably the least prevalent of the camps.
Yeah.
Usually people are either, see there just being the two camps, mind and matter, and usually putting one over the other somehow.
Yeah. I think that in modern times, the physicalism or the materialism is going to be the most prominent of all of those.
Yeah, for sure. Just reading chat here. The pro saying in the book of Proverbs, the Hebrew word for wisdom is hokmah, something along those lines. Is described as a thread that the Lord uses to bind everything together. Interesting. And then when we get to John, that's the Word became flesh. So that binding agent is the person of Jesus. God is the one that holds everything together. So, yeah. Ultimately, God is the one holding reality together. But does that make God reality itself? Like, would we be able to come to that conclusion?
Depends on which viewpoint you're coming from.
True.
Because if you're going from the standpoint of creation and God breathing into us the breath of life, He has given us part of that God-given life. So we do have that, and we get to the New Testament, we have the indwelling of the Spirit. So could we exist without the breath of life or, without the Spirit as a Christian? I would say no. So then we can't exist without God. So I don't know if that's where you're going with that, but that would be kind of like the thought process I would kind of try to track down and think through.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Grace in the chat saying that in medicine, oh yeah, so there's this distinction of the mind, because you can have like various mental ailments that they can't really diagnose, and so the mind ends up being its own category. You got mind, body, and spirit making up one person, and those three distinctions you hear a lot actually, because you hear about keeping up with your mental health, your physical health, and your spiritual health.
Yes.
Which I think are good things to strive after. Like, those are good categories in terms of health. But from a metaphysical standpoint, would we say that the mind falls into the matter camp or the mind camp, or a camp of its own?
I think I would put it into a camp of its own. And here would be one reason why we could maybe do that is as we look at the realm outside of humans that have been created, do they have a consciousness that they can be self-aware? And some do and some don't. But we don't believe that animals or trees from a biblical worldview have a spirit. So from that standpoint, what actually has a mind is one level of creation, but what has a spirit would be a second level within creation. And then we actually can go with things that are just inanimate objects that don't actually have life, that are building blocks or they're material in of themselves. So you've got three different levels that you can break it out just looking at what's within Scripture, I would say.
Interesting. Gotcha. And would that be true from both the Greek standpoint and the Hebrew standpoint there?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I'm trying to think through Hebrew scriptures if they're even addressing animals or matter in any way, because creation does. So I can go there to kind of make some distinctions there. I don't know well enough to know to think through the Greek and whether there's any encounters with creation that it's talking about. Maybe the only thing would be going to new creation and then looping that back to Genesis or references back to the Old Testament. Yeah. But as far as Greek philosophy, I don't know if they made such a distinction between plants and animals and humans of that realm to know if that makes a difference there or not.
Yeah. Well, I know in 1 Corinthians 15, it talks about where there's a physical body, there's a spiritual body also.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but though in there, I don't think Paul makes a third distinction there. So I'm not sure how Paul categorizes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Animals don't get a lot of, talking about in the New Testament, other than mentioning they might exist or they might be part of the story. Like, there's shepherds, so then there's sheep there. There's a donkey that Jesus rides on, so there's a donkey. Like, they don't get mentioned or talked about for other than, I don't mean it this way in a bad way. They're just a prop in the story. That's all we get references to animals in the New Testament that I can think of.
Yeah. The pro saying, but in the Bible, doesn't creation praise the Lord? It even says it groans, waiting for the day that God will make all things new, if I'm remembering correctly. Interesting.
Oh.
So positing that, I suppose that would be like spiritually the world is groaning or something like that.
Yeah, there's a part of that, but to go back to the doesn't creation praise the Lord piece of that, absolutely. And that's one of the things that as you get further and further into the sciences, you have fewer and fewer explanations of things other than an external thing that actually is the mover of everything that moves. And you get some, and they don't always talk about it. They're not all open about it. There's a couple of people I've seen who are physicists who talk about the fact that the more they studied creation and the physics of things, the more they realized the margin of error of things happening by chance. So it led them to saying there has to be an ultimate mover that created everything. And then they pursue that to finding God and finding Christ and going down that realm. That's not to say everybody does, but when you're talking about doesn't creation alone, just the physical part that is excluded from humans is something that points to God and demands, I think, that someone created it, that it didn't just come into being by chance. And then even if it is something that came into being by chance, how can something come from nothing is a problem that nobody can actually, I think, rationally argue is true. You still always had to have something that always existed.
Yes, and I would agree to that. So that verse that talks about creation praising the Lord would be, just its existence in the way that things are designed and the way God upholds it. Like, you look at the stars and the seas, like just go to the Psalms and a lot of the poetry back in the Hebrew, right? And the way it describes creation, is just to say creation just by being praises God, because who made all that?
Yeah. To go back to when you were talking about Romans, we're without excuse because there's creation all around us. So we need to know by just looking around us that there is a ultimate mover, a creator that created all things. The Bible just helps us to find who that person is, and then God's will for us that we can join in and be able to participate in. Yes. When we get into the theology talk, where we talk about the nature of God, one of the views, and I can't remember the name for it right now, posits that God is everything. God is this rock. God is this chair. God. There are religions that believe that everything is in and of itself God, and animism will be one of those camps that would be in that direction of depending on flavor that you look at. Where there's the God of the tree or the God in the tree. There's the God in the rock. God is the rock. Those kinds of things come out. Hey, One Reason, welcome in. Peace to you as well, friend.
Indeed. But though we would not say that a rock has a soul.
No biblical worldview believes that that they have a soul, they also wouldn't have consciousness. That's the distinction I was trying to make there. With the rock exists. It's totally material.
Yeah.
It has no consciousness. An animal may be able to have consciousness, and we've studied that, and we know some animals are self-aware. Some don't seem to be self-aware. And one of the ways that you test this with infants' self-awareness is with a mirror and other things, and people leaving and coming back, recognizing them and being aware that they're a different entity of themselves. You can show self-awareness on a small level, and you can do the same with animals. So there has to be a consciousness level, but then we go a step further by saying God is breath breathed into us, and we have a spirit, a soul within us that is immaterial. So I don't know where to put the consciousness piece. Yeah. Is that a spiritual aspect? Is that a material aspect? I have no idea. Maybe that's a thing that's a third piece.
Yeah. I would go so far as to say that it would be more of the that kind of spiritual realm. I mean, looking at the dualism definitions that I've seen, a lot of them distinguish it between mind and matter. So they wouldn't say soul. But a lot of times when you talk about soul, it falls under that mind camp. So
yeah, it depends on if they're coming from a biblical worldview or a different religious worldview or no religious worldview to split up just solely two things. I don't know if we can go any further down that trail.
Exactly. Yeah. Honestly, those I think you would be fine believing either way, whether you believe there are three camps or whether you believe that the mind and the soul are one. I think either there's biblical grounds for either.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yep. Alrighty, so moving on. This is why I wanted to have you on here, good sir, is for talking about digital space. So, so we come to, I guess the first question that we have to ask here, since digital space is man-made, can we claim it to be its own realm or ontology?
On some level, isn't, I'll just pick on a place that maybe somebody's from, maybe they're not. Isn't Nashville a place that's been created by man? And I don't mean the physical location. I mean the things that exist within there.
For it, I suppose.
Right. The name of the place, the streets that are there, the buildings that are there, the businesses that are there, those have all come through the creation of people. So without people creating anything, there would be no houses, there would be no streets, there would be no businesses, there would be no power lines, there'd be no cars, there would be nothing there except creation itself. Everything else has been created by man, including the name Nashville. So I know we don't think that way. We think we're in the physical space and that God created that, but we create the place like that I am right now. Someone created the house that I exist in. And so whether you're in this house or not, or the house that you're in, someone created that. And I would say it wasn't God. God created the building blocks for it to be created and put together and assembled. So in that same way, if I can create the space that I dwell in and I reside in, then how is that different from creating a digital space where I can dwell and reside in?
Gotcha. So what I would say to that is, the matter that our homes are made out of, we are organizing what God has created and and subduing it, because we are called in Genesis to subdue the earth and fill it.
Yeah.
So this is part of our created order.
Yes.
But though that wouldn't be saying that we are creating a new earth, right? We would say that God created the earth and will come and create a newer earth after in the end time. So what I would say to that is it's more of organizing space rather than creating new space.
Right. So then the question is, and this is really, does the web exists in its own reality that is there aside from anyone being present in it. And I don't know that you can argue that it is from unless you go down this realm. And track with me a second.
Okay.
My house can exist without anyone living in the house. So once it's been created, it still exists whether people are in there or not. So it is a real thing. Right now, we are experiencing it by us being able to be connected, by all of these wonderful people being here in stream with us. And then anybody that's watching this VOD later, this will exist. It is a thing that has been created. So I have a hard time, like when I can think through it that way, of saying it's not a place, it's not real, it doesn't exist, but it still had to be the things that God gave us to create with. So we still are using the material world to create the space that is immaterial. So we still have to have the silicone and the plastic and the electricity and the power lines or the harnessing of Wi-Fi, however, or data, well, however that's transmitted, depending on what you're using, all of those kinds of things. We still have to be using the universe created by God within the realm that he did. So we're not, in some sense, creating anything new. We're just organizing the things that God already created. So yeah, like Schrodinger's house. If no one's in the house, does the house exist? Or if you don't know the house exists, it both simultaneously exists and doesn't exist. Love. Oh man, that was beautiful. Just to throw that out again. So I don't know if you tracked with everything I was just saying, but when you can view it from that point of the physical realm that we all agree with, and you push that into, we're just doing similar things in a new way, in a new realm, where we can still use these things to connect better. Like we use the telephone and the telegram before we had the internet. So could you build relationships across the telephone and a telegraph, or even the written word before that? You absolutely could. You did, because Paul did it. He wrote to the church at Rome before he ever visited them. He wrote to the church in Ephesus after he had visited them. He wrote multiple letters to the church in Corinth after he had lived there for a year and a half at least. So we have different means of building relationship other than just being physically present, and everything is just an iteration of something that came before. It might be a different way of saying it.
Yeah. And we'll come to the whole relational thing in a moment, but though, like, just going on the whole like digital space part here, it like I like what the pro was saying, that one could also say that digital he's saying that digital space could affect other spaces, and there has to be real to extent. I would argue against that and say that that the way that I am impacting the physical world through anything digital, right? Like, you know, if I ask my my Google to turn off the lights and things like that, like that there isn't me manipulating through digital space, but rather electrical signals being sent around. So it's I would argue it's no different than me flipping the switch physically at that point.
Oh, that's an interesting thought, because I think I would go the other way. But here's what I'll say. Maybe it's a distinction without a difference. Okay. One of the things one of my professors said all the time, like we would be arguing profusely, like a couple of us in class, and he'd just kind of go, well, maybe that's a distinction without a difference. So maybe whether or not I'm talking to a program that then hits the switch for me, or I physically hit the switch, I still used my voice. I'm still the agent. I'm still the cause. If I program it to turn off and on, I'm still the cause agent. So there's still the causer of the light going off and on. Doesn't matter if I physically do it, or I use my voice, or a pre-program that I used my fingers to do it. I have multiple ways. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe it's a distinction without a difference of whether You're actually interacting with the physical, because to do something, I'm either speaking to the computer, typing on the computer, or doing things that could impact the real world. Like I could tell my computer to turn on and off the power station down the road. I'm not doing that. I'm not smart enough to do that, but there are people that could.
Yeah.
And that would impact the real world, or to open a hydro dam or do other things. I could impact the real world through the means, but I still have an interface that is physical into the digital realm. Even if it's a VR headset, there's still a physical interface that I connect with in order to plug in to, I'll just say, to the matrix. I still have to be plugged into the matrix. I can't enter the digital realm without a device.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I would say, because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, the agent behind that is a physical person.
Yes.
We wouldn't be able to say that you have a digital soul, for example, right? Like you have right. Yeah. Going back to the ontology discussion that we just had. You know, you are mind, matter, and spirits, or just matter and spirits, whichever camp you want to fall in. And so we wouldn't say then you are mind, matter, spirit, and pixels. This is like, yeah, God did not create this concept of digital space and pixels, right? But it rather Mark Zuckerberg, especially if we look at the metaverse here, created this. Like this idea of there being a persistent, shared, immersive network of 3D virtual worlds. One such being Facebook's metaverse, but though the metaverse concept goes beyond the one that is like trademarked as metaverse. But
right. Yeah, we were not talking the trademarked one, because the idea existed before taking and saying, well, I want my company to be called Meta. But there is that level of 3D, and I want to say on some level, I think since we created something to begin with, art I'll just pick on, because I think that lends itself to following through with my thought. If I'm painting on a cave wall, it's two-dimensional and it doesn't actually fully reflect reality. I want to move it further and further closer to reality. When we have animation that begins, when we can do that, we still are trying to figure out how to do shadows right, how to do depth. And then within animation, you get cells so that you get layers, so that it starts to mimic what reality in the physical space that God created is actually like. And then we're able to start to do three-dimensional things once so we're just moving all of that in some ways, like I was saying earlier, to the new iteration of what it is. So now not only can I do that on the screen, and I can start to show the depth, and I can take two pictures from two different places to show more depth and get you to wear certain glasses to look at 3D in a movie theater. I now can have you put on something fully immersive and be able to have a whole world that's created around you that becomes immersive, that you're hanging out in. We're just kind of trying to constantly reflect the world that God created.
Yeah. And one reason here saying that it could be a form of subduing. I would say that it's more so a form of subduing the world. I don't think it's by like Jesus saying that we could do greater things. This is something that not just Christians are doing. So I wouldn't say that's what Jesus was referring to there. But because
let's pick on that point, because I don't think that's a inadvertent thing that you just said.
Okay.
So if Christians didn't create the space, but other human beings have created the space, then are we not called to go to all spaces where people are at and to bring the gospel to all spaces? So
absolutely.
So that would just follow. I just wanted to follow up with what I think what one reason was kind of following along with there. But the what Jesus doing greater things, I wouldn't think that part's connected at all to doing greater things. I don't think he's thinking metaverse. I think we do greater things because we are not the Son of God.
Yeah.
So the same way that that's the example I usually use of that. the same way a 5-year-old son of an NBA basketball player who could dunk a basketball is doing greater things than an NBA player if he can dunk the basketball at 5 years old, because he's 5 years old and he hasn't built all the skills and talents to be able to actually do it. So anybody who is not Jesus, who does things that bring people to God and point them to God, are in a sense greater because we are doing them from the source that God has given us. We are not the source itself.
Yes. So, at the same time though, like, yeah, so I would absolutely say that, like, yes, you were correct about this being an organized space that we have of sorts. But though, in terms of like our again, going back to the like ontology there with like your soul is still like I am in Ohio right now. My body and soul is in Ohio. I am not a soul mancer. I cannot project myself.
No, not in that sense. However, I wish I had this off the top of my head exactly where Paul makes a reference to it, but in his letters, there is the part of you are with us and we are with you that Paul plays out in his letters. And it's not that they are with them physically, but I think there's a realm at which they are spiritually. And it doesn't have to be you and I directly. It is we are together spiritually because the Spirit indwells us both. So therefore, we are connected in both places, which is separate from what you were saying. But I didn't want to let that go by without that thought of we are spiritually connected through Christ, through the Holy Spirit who indwells us, the same way Paul was pointing it out to people he was writing letters to. But to talk about in the metaverse, does your body, or I should say, your body never enters the metaverse. Your eyes perceive the metaverse. Yeah. Your ears perceive the metaverse. You don't actually go into it. You don't exist in it. Now, you could exist with an avatar within it. The avatar can exist, but your physical body does not cross over that barrier. So if your physical body can't cross over into it, I don't think your spiritual body could. I think you were leading on the idea of, like, I'll just say, like, if you create an AI character that can exist, and we're getting close to ones that have, well, actually, we could go to another channel right now. There's an AI Jesus channel, and you could go ask AI Jesus things, and AI Jesus would respond. AI Jesus does not have a soul. He doesn't have a spirit. He is all of the programming that went into him, and the programming that has been learned as it's a learning program. So I don't know if that fully got what you were asking there, or if I went way off on a side trail.
You actually are bringing us into the next point here, which is to talk about the nature of presence, right?
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Perfect, actually. But yes, also welcome in Northdale. Good to see you in here.
Hey, Northdale, good to see you.
Yeah. I would say that there are 3 layers of presence, right? So you have physical presence, spiritual presence, and relational presence, right? So
I like that you included relational presence. Not everybody would.
Yes. I was in a VC talk, like trying to mull this through with some friends, kind of bouncing off them as guinea pigs over the weekend. As I was doing my research, like, no, there are articles that agree about this as well. There being 3 of them. One of the articles I found called the spiritual presence one phenomenological presence, which
yeah, just keep with spiritual.
Yeah. But though so basically, physical presence, you are sharing a physical space, self-explanatory. Spiritual presence, appearing in conscious or soul. So this one, oh boy, this one can get a little bit debated, which kind of goes into what you were just playing at. But relational presence, I think we can all agree that, like, you and I right now are relationally present with one another, even though absolutely. We are miles apart physically, because we are engaged in a mutual recognition.
Yeah, and I'll play this back again. I this may sound weird. I just keep playing. Like, we're in a new iteration of this, because before this, we would have done this by being on the phone. We would have done this by sending letters back and forth to each other. The one example I love using is pen pals were real relationships. They had no means of writing a telephone because it was too expensive, or not writing a telephone, of getting on the telephone, especially like this was a thing when I was a kid. You would have pen pals overseas. If you've ever done the whole thing where you sponsor a child and that child writes to you and sends you things. Now you could do it electronically nowadays and add to it, but it's like you would send a photo so the person would know you and know your physical being, but you would write because it was relational presence. And even think about people that have gone through wars and wrote letters and had mail given back and forth. And there's several movies about the essence of how crucial mail was to the morale of the soldier on the front line and the morale of the homeland that was far away, because they needed to know the connection relationally between the two of them to be able to function in their daily lives of what they were facing. And so, yeah, the relational thing, I like I said, I just think it's a new iteration. Often I think, though, that physical churches don't think this is real. They don't think about it. They only think that relationship can happen physically. So they don't even suspect that you and I could have a real relational presence, because they're only thinking that you can start with a relationship physically. But as we were talking earlier, if the world is moving into spaces, they were already doing online dating. They didn't wait and ask, can you start a relationship online and then make it move physical if you happen to get married? They just said, no, we're going to start there, and we're going to go in that direction to begin with. So if we move from just a computer screen or a phone swipe, and now we move into a video call, or we move into a metaverse VR thing, it's just the new way to do something that humans have been doing for a long time.
Yeah, and in terms of relational presence, like even before all these technological advances, think about just two people in the same room. You can have two people be in the same room but not be relationally present. They could be in a conversation together, and you would say that guy is not present in the conversation because his mind is elsewhere, right?
100%. And yeah, even if you could be present in the conversation, there's no relationship with that person. I am trying to escape or ignore or avoid. So there's no relational presence. There is relational avoidance in some of those cases. So yeah, you're absolutely, well, even just talk about, let's go this way, a church service on Sunday morning, and you all know these people that show up right at the end. They walk in, the greeter barely was able to shake their hand. They sit down. As soon as the exit music, I'm going to call it that, because that's their cue to exit, begins to play, they walk out of the place. They had no relational presence with anybody, even though they were physically present through the entire worship service.
Ooh, 100% accurate.
Yes. So, yeah, absolutely. We can do that online. We can avoid physical presence, or we can avoid relational presence online the same way we can do that in person. We do it all the time. I'll give you one more just while I'm thinking about it, because it just popped in my head.
Yeah.
I can be physically present on the corner with a person holding up a sign that says homeless and hungry, and I have no relational presence because I won't make eye contact with them. I saw them as I'm pulling up. I know that they're there, and I avoid them, and I move on, and I will not even acknowledge their physical presence by looking at them.
Yeah.
I have no relational presence there. So that is the thing that we do in our real lives. We avoid relational presence all over the place.
Exactly. 100%. Yes. And man, God made us as social creatures. We ought to aspire to be present with one another, because that is what we're made to do.
Yeah. And I think you were alluding to at times when you will say somebody isn't physically or isn't, mentally present. I think that sometimes our minds will occupy us, and that's not an intentional avoidance of relational presence. It's an occupied, my mind is dealing with the thing that I don't know how to solve, and my mind is elsewhere while I'm physically here. And we can be snapped back into that. Like, hey, are you paying attention? Are you listening? Is something else going on? we can pick up on those cues to invite people into relational presence rather than avoiding them and pushing them away.
Yes. Agreed. So, there are a couple stances here with these three layers of presence that one can take. So there's the realist stance where only physical presence counts. There's the relational stance, which says that's like, yes, what we're doing now, we are present with one another. You only need to interact with them. And then there's a hybrid stance that says you are present in one sense, but not the other. And that's the one that I would argue for I would still make a distinguishing factor that's like, even though we are present relationally right now, we are not present physically right now. And then the spiritual one is debatable. So we can't say that we are fully present, but we are present nonetheless.
I like how you said that. We cannot make an argument we're fully present, and I would not disagree. We are not physically present with each other, unless you want to go this far out that say we're both present on the same planet. We're both present in the same country. But now I'm trying to fit it into a definition so that I can use physical as an argument, which I don't think we need to do. I think we understand we mean physically present. My eyeballs can see you, my ears can hear you, and if we're close enough, I can smell you. Those would be the things there. But I think a lot of people think physically present is the only thing that's important. And so they don't consider spiritually present or relationally present. And I was trying to lead in this direction, I think, a little bit earlier about the spiritual present that Paul, I think, alludes to within his writings to the church, that he is spiritually present with them. They are spiritually present with him. One of the ways and avenues that we do that, I think, is through prayer.
Okay.
So I think we do. The other is, like I was mentioning, the connection of being connected spiritually through the Spirit of God. Yeah. And then depending upon your views on communion, there's that whole thing that we could bring into this argument too, because in communion, depending on your viewpoint, so I'm not telling anyone what to believe, I'm just going to say there is the viewpoint that there is a spiritual presence of Christ within there in some viewpoints, and that we are communing with all believers in all time and all places when we participate in communion with Christ. Because if Christ is present in all places and all times, we as participants in communion are connecting to that spiritually to all places in all places at all times, whether that's past, present, or future. So if that is true through connection to the Spirit within communion, I'd say if you believe that, then there's good reason to also say it's true that we're spiritually present in the digital space.
Yes. And I did do a concise theology video on the sacraments, including communion. So you can go there to look at the 4 different views. 3 of the 4 different views do say that there is at minimum a spiritual presence, and then the 2 remaining views are then getting into the physical presence of Jesus, which is extremely debatable. But
it depends on how you define physical presence again, but we're not going to go down that road. Yeah.
Oh boy. It's especially when it comes to communion. That's a whole nother thing.
I don't want to make that argument. Let's not take that point of, let me put it that way. I would not take the argument around communion of physical presence of Christ and bring that into the metaverse argument. I don't think it applies.
I agree.
You found a spot where I'm not willing to concede. You found it.
Oh boy. But yeah, so there's this so when it comes to spiritual presence, I think that is where there's lots of room for debate here. There's this like Kingdom Hearts-ism, I would call it, where you could say that like I'm there with you in your heart, and things like that, which I would say at most is more of a relational presence there when you say those things, because you are not omnipresent. You cannot project your spirit. You're not a soulmancer. So what I would say is in those things where we are relating to one another spiritually, we have the same Holy Spirit in us. Yes. So I would say that, like, if anything, the Spirit who is omnipresent is the one that we are having that kind of, like, I guess you could say, like, communion and sorts through. But though I would not say that like my soul is currently touching your soul in this moment.
Okay. I have something that maybe will push back on that.
Okay, go ahead.
But I'm not gonna say it's all. But I'm gonna start with you're correct. We're not all places at all times. So I am not right now spiritually present on any other stream. It's not possible because I'm only present relationally here. So I cannot be spiritually present somewhere other place at the same time. So when Jesus entered into the room where Elizabeth was while he was in utero, he leaped for joy by the spiritual presence because he could not see or perceive the physical presence. He had to be perceiving the spiritual presence of Jesus in order for him in utero to be able to leap for joy. So as North Hill just came in, and others did earlier, we both lifted our spirits with excitement for his presence here. I would say that could be spiritual presence as well as relational presence at the same time. So I might be splitting hairs, but I think there's an aspect of the spiritual relationship that we have in the body that won't happen for everyone that shows up in the chat. But for some people, for me, when they show up, it's going to be a spiritual presence that I am excited about more than the relational presence to utter out. Like I said, I don't know if that resonates or if that's connecting with anybody, but that'd be one place where I could see a distinction to say, yeah, there's spiritual presence that's happening. The other place I would go with that is to say, when we are doing the activities of the church, we can have spiritual presence. So when we're doing communion, when we're doing worship, when we're doing prayer, when we're doing spiritual disciplines, it would be spiritual presence. I don't know if we're playing Baldur's Gate 3, which is a game I've played, like that we're just both playing together and we're not talking about God, we're not thinking about it, that there's spiritual presence at that time.
Yes. And then North Hill saying in here that so even in utero they were in the same room, and yes, there was some kind of spiritual presence there, absolutely, some kind of spiritual perception at the very least. Are we not?
Well, there was spiritual perception of the mothers, but not of the two in utero. How would they physically perceive when they cannot see, hear, or touch the other person who is also in utero? So I'm not denying the physical proximity.
Yeah.
I'm saying there was no actual physical presence because they could not perceive that the other person was there.
Yes. But I would still say that where there's a spirit, where's a physical body, there's a spiritual body also, right? So I think that our bodies are tied to the physical space, even though we do have a spiritual body and things like that. So I would not go so far. I would still say that, like,
you can push back against me. Go for it.
Yeah. So that is the scripture I would bring. What was that? 1 Corinthians 15. Yeah, where there's a spirit, where there's a physical body, there's a spiritual body also. So I would say the two are still intertwined even in that case. So then to North Hill's question, are we not nearer to one another through a keyboard? I would still say that, and again, y'all can feel free to disagree with me, right? I would still say no. That's you're not projecting yourself through the keyboard spiritually.
Well, I would say I am projecting myself physically or a simulation of me because there's video to be able to see. I'm not actually physically in the same room as you.
Yes.
I am doing the best proximity or approximation of being able to do that by projecting an image of me through video means, which would be superior to present myself other than voice only. So, but again, we're getting back to it's not fully every piece of me that is there at the time. But I think since I'm just gonna go back to it, I think our spirits can be spiritually present with each other if we have some other realm that is connecting us at the same time. It could be physically that it is connecting us. It could be visually, I'm perceiving you, and relationally, we are engaged. And then it could be through the means of works of the church or spiritual disciplines, practices that could also spiritually have us present with one another. But that's where I'm going to land on it. And you might not fully accept that, and that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also thinking about those that are not in Christ, right? Would we say that we are spiritually present with non-believers when we engage in activities like this?
No, I would not say that. I wouldn't. I don't think I would say that we're spiritually present. We have nothing that's connecting our spirits together.
Okay.
I would say a non-believer who comes to my stream regularly, I relationally get excited when they show up, but I have no spiritual connection to them because they are not of the same faith that I am. And I have some that regularly come, and I genuinely get excited when they're there because I'm building that relationship with them. I'm longing for a spiritual presence with them. I do not yet perceive it, and they have not yet confessed it. So that'd be my thoughts on that.
I respect that one, actually. I actually agree to that one because, that's, I might even be persuaded on this on the spiritual presence bit now, because if it's through the Holy Spirit,
that is my key, is the connecting through the Spirit's presence with us, that my spirit and your spirit are connected through the Holy Spirit's presence. So without the Holy Spirit and the other person, I can't connect with them spiritually. And another interesting, North Hill just brought up, what about the centurion healing at a great distance? I would say that's again through the Spirit. So the Spirit would have been present even if Jesus wasn't present.
Yes, because we know that God is omnipresent. So
right,
yeah.
So you could have the Father and the Spirit present without Jesus physically present in that healing, but you could also say that he was physically present with the person requesting, even if he wasn't physically present with the person receiving.
Yeah.
I love Muddy in the Water, if you haven't figured that out.
Oh, it's beautiful. Oh man. But yes, but though, even then, when Jesus was resurrected, he started to appear to many apostles at the same time. And the key word there being at the same time. So God does have this unique power, because he is God, to be omnipresent like that. And then some would argue that because that this was like the resurrection body, that we will also have that power in the new heavens, new earth.
If we get into resurrection body, we're gonna go down a whole nother rabbit trail. So let's not even, unless that's something you want to really discuss, let's not open up that can of worms.
No, because I don't think we could make any logical conclusions on that one. No.
Yeah. As North Hill is saying, incarnate Christ versus resurrected body Christ. Yes.
That's fair. Yeah.
I like to speculate on what resurrection body is going to be. I love the idea of just being physically here and then boom, physically there. Because I would love to just go to the Grand Canyon and go, I wonder how this compares to, and poof, I go to the next canyon and I just do a canyon tour for a day. And I just get to go see all the cool canyons that are on the face of the earth. And I explore them for a day, or maybe I take a whole week and I just do that the next day and the next day. That's what my brain goes to. But that's still not explaining anything. That's just hypothesizing that if Jesus could do it, well, I want to.
Yeah. So a question that I put down in my notes to muddy the waters as well, which I'll go ahead and throw out there, was the spirit of Elijah present with John the Baptist?
Okay, I'll start with a different spot. At the Transfiguration, you have Moses and Elijah present.
Mhm.
Are they physically present, or are they just spiritually present? At that, because how you answer that question will go back to the Elijah question in John. But then you also have another realm, because John says he's not Elijah. And does he mean he's not Elijah because Elijah's spirit is not upon him or in him? Or he is just the one who is the prophet like Elijah, like Jesus is the new Moses. He's not the old one. So John is not the old Elijah come back in a reincarnated body. He is just the new Elijah that's the forerunner for the Messiah to come.
Interesting. Yeah, because going off the Transfiguration thing, I would say that like there was something physically being seen, right? Like when the angel appeared before Balaam, he then would have a physical form in order to be able to be seen,
Well,
right?
Does he have to have a physical form in order to be seen?
Ooh.
Because light is not physical.
Isn't it?
So, well, it's simultaneously a wave and a particle. So, like, you'd have to go down the whole physics trail. Is it a wave? Is it a particle? That kind of thing. But if it's just a wave, it's not really physically there. The light that's behind you is not there. So if all that is happening is the bending of light to be perceived by the eye, does it actually? Well, I'll go another one. When Paul sees Jesus on the road to Damascus, nobody with him sees. So did Paul actually see Jesus or not see Jesus because he saw him? Was he actually physically there, or was he like you could just keep going down different examples in this way of, I don't know if it's physical or not physical. It doesn't have enough information to understand it. What I do know is it was real, and it was the presence of a messenger of God, or it was Jesus himself that was there. Those things I'll say yes. How was it? Even you have examples of, I was in a dream or I had a vision. Are they the same thing? Is a dream only when you're unconscious? When you're caught up into the third heaven with John or Paul talking about, like, you just start going down this rabbit trail of what's the difference between physical presence of an angelic spiritual being? Do they have to take on physical nature to be seen, or can they just bend the world around them and light per se to show up to people, or they just show up in a dream and they're invading, I don't mean in a bad way, but they're entering into the subconscious mind to reveal things? I don't have an answer. I'm just making this really muddy for everybody.
I think that's where we will have to leave that one as well, because I don't. Yeah, you're right. This is something that would take a lot of research that neither of us have done. So
no, well, and I've speculated on it, but I think that's not vastly different than what we're speculating on within digital. Like, if a messenger of God is showing up in a dream or in a vision or physically is standing there, does it matter? Because the messenger of God still delivered the message to the person who perceived the message, received the message, and either did or didn't do what the message told them to do. Yeah. So maybe we're back to the, is there spiritual presence or not? Does it matter? Is there relational presence or not? I think that one matters. Is there physical presence? I don't think that's there. Unless we go back to the resemblance is good enough to be physically present, which some people would make an argument from. I still say I don't enter physically from the space I'm in. Other things representing me do, so I would argue against it physically. So yeah, we've gone full circle and come right back to the beginning and discovered all the answers that everybody ever wanted.
I think you're right. Sorry, welcome, man. Thank you for stacking hats. Again, like, I think having these three categories of presence is the important part here. And distinguishing, I guess we'll Actually, I'll skip down to the last bit here. I think we'll circle back around to the identity in a moment, but coming down to physical experience. Does matter matter? And then also after a question that's what we posited, which I put on the screen: are all physical churches better? Right. So I guess before we go into the church part, there is it better just in general to be physically present with someone? Does that make you more present?
Oh, you want to start with that one?
Yeah.
I would say it depends on the relationship you have. So in some cases, I may have limitations, barriers, boundaries, social anxiety, mental illness, that being physically present would be detrimental to being relational with another person. So the physical experience might be harmful to be present with other people. So no, it may not be better in every case, every circumstance to be physically present with a person.
Oh, interesting. So, hold on, give me that scenario again.
Okay, so depending upon my relationship or some limitation I have.
Okay.
So they're two separate things.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let's just say I have a relationship with someone who is hostile. Being physically present is not better than being physically absent. So if we need to go to court and I can do it through a video screen and not have to be in the same room with that person, it's going to be better for me,
Sure,
mentally and spiritually, than being physically present and relationally, because the relationship's broken. So in that regard, physical presence would actually be a detriment. The other side I was saying, if you don't have a broken relationship or a hostile relationship, if I have limitations or something that gets in my way, I have a mental issue, a physical issue, and the stress and anxiety of moving to a physical space in order to be able to do something is going to limit my actual presence relationally. It's better for me to get together in another way than physically present. Now, that could be a phone call, that could be a video call. I'm not saying it has to be a full-on experience digitally, but in a relationship, I can build that. I can even build that by writing letters. I'll give you an example of that. My mother-in-law, with every single grandkid, when they go away to college for the first semester, she starts writing them physical letters. She's not present with them. She can't be present with them. If she was only to be physically present, it would only be once a year.
Okay.
So is it better to find another means to be present than to abstain from any relational presence that she could have until they could be together physically? So there's a lot of different ways of how you dissect that.
Yeah. Zari in the chat here saying, as someone that does have social anxiety, in-person socialization is still better for her overall, discounting the hostile people. Right. Just in that the in-person situation needs to be very specific for peak comfort, right? So someone that has social anxiety would still be able to have like one-on-one encounters with someone physically, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Not all physical encounters are the same. Not all physical circumstances are the same. So to say that they're all better than other ways of having relational connection or digital connection, that's what I'm getting at. There are scenarios at which it's bad to be physically present. So other means are going to be better.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I would shake on that. Yes, that all makes sense. And so then I guess bringing that into the church, right?
Well, before we bring it to the church.
Okay, go ahead.
Before we bring it to the church, I would also say, just like Paul, when he's writing the letters, he has a longing to be present with them. I have a longing to be present with the people I am developing a relationship with online. So while I might have, or others may not always have that. I do.
Yeah.
And the thing, and I talked about this on my podcast earlier today, there are some things that do not have an equal stature in the digital realm, at least not yet. They're going to move towards that, but they're not there yet. Like they're building devices so that you could perceive me touching you. We haven't done that yet. They're working on that so that not only can we see and hear, but you would put on a suit so that when I would take action, you would feel it. I can't feel a hug right now. I mean, we send digital hugs. They're not the same. You know, you can go into a VR space and you can virtual hug. I don't feel anything. They're working on in the VR space. You would actually feel me presently hugging you by having something on you that would perceive how strongly my hug is, how big I am compared to you, all those things. So your avatar would feel it and you would have something on that would have you be able to feel that. So they're working towards some of those things. But frankly, the best part for me is I could have these conversations with people digitally, and I love that. And I'm engaged, mind, body, and spirit in the whole because my hands are still moving, like it's all doing that. I can't hug somebody.
Yeah.
I can't embrace somebody. That is the one thing that I can't do. And I mean, I hug so many people, and even more than that, when we were doing worship, and we had everybody come into the front, and people came up to me to ask for prayer. First thing that all of them did was hug me. They all hugged me, and the first hug was like 5 minutes long before we really even started talking and praying. And then every hug was at least a 2 to 3 minute hug, not a quick 5-8 seconds. Hey, I want a hug from you. It was we were physically present, and we were going to take advantage of that mind, body, spirit, all there. We were doing it. So yes, I think there are some things that are not duplicatable, and those things are missing, and we will have a longing for those things the same way that Paul longed to be able to see and hear and touch all of those people that he dearly loved. And so I have several of those, like, I'm watching you people I have not met in person, and she is on the top of my top 10 list of people that I want to physically be present with at some point. And it is going to just take our relationship we already have to another level of relationship. But it doesn't make it less if it never happens, because there's some people who are around the globe who may die before I ever get a chance to be physically present with them, because I know their life circumstance and situation. And so that's like that pen pal that you have a real relationship with, and you never actually get to see each other face to face.
Interesting. I like what you had to say there, because, like, yes, it is. We like, here's the thing. All of us that went to ReachConf, universally, what I noticed is people, we were engaging with each other still after that, online with each other. We were still, like, relationally present with one another, but yet people were saying, I miss you. Why were we saying that if we were relationally present with one another? It's because we were missing that aspect of it, right? Yeah.
If you want to pull in a biblical thought there, it's when Paul talks about going to a mirror and seeing dimly and walking away and forgetting. It's part of the, unless I'm constantly with you and seeing you, I'm forgetting as I walk away. And we're realizing that as we go through life, because not everyone is physically present, and not everyone who is at Reach is present every time you stream live, and they're not present every time I stream live.
Sure.
We all are in different realms. So it is that longing to be together that we all feel, and we don't all have capacity. We all set aside that time to engage for a period of time. And now we don't all have that ability to do that presently all at the same time. So
exactly. Yeah. So unless you had anything else you wanted to add before we switch this into the church discussion.
No, that was the part I wanted to add before we switch to the church, because I think it's important to just think about us as humans and what we have before we switch to if we don't fully explore that and the pluses and the minuses, then we won't be able to answer the question of a physical church versus a digital church. And are they equal, or is one better than the other? Or are they both different expressions of the fullness of the body of Christ?
Yes. So there are some out there that are going to say that digital churches aren't real churches because they lack the physicality. I would disagree with those. I would still say that they are a organized group of believers that are meeting with one another, even though they are not meeting physically. So I would still qualify them as a church. So do not hear what I'm not saying, right? We're not saying that.
I love that phrase.
Yeah.
I love that phrase.
Yeah. So yeah, don't think that I'm out here trying to say that like, oh, we need to shut down every digital church out there. No. What I want to get at though is if you had to choose between a physical church and a digital church, which one ought you choose?
Oh, that's an interesting caveat there. Which one ought you choose, or which one would I currently choose? Because I might lean in different directions there.
Ooh, go on.
So knowing that I have a longing to hug people, I ought to default and say I want to physically be in a church. However, I currently feel more spiritually present when I attend online churches. I feel more relationally present when I attend online churches than I do with physical churches. And part of that is because I don't currently have a physical church home, because I've been doing interim ministry where I go from one church to another church to another church. I do pulpit supply. I don't currently have a home to reside in where I've developed those relationships that I long to be in. So I don't want to neglect my online relationships to go find a physical church to be in relationship with, if that makes sense.
Sure. No, absolutely. A lot of people in the chat are leaning towards the towards the physical here. Also, K-Bug, welcome in. But yes, the and I would say that makes absolute sense in your situation. But though at the end of the day, for the average layman here that has the choice here, right? They have churches within an hour's drive, right? Y'all, if even if there's not one just like 5 minutes down the road, if you need to there's things worth sacrificing for, right? So anyways, because I know some people that drive like 2 hours to be able to get to a church. Anyways, that all aside, if you were just to have those options, right? Like, you want to maximize the amount of presence that you can with a fellow believer at any given point, I would say, right? Because if those three categories is what I'm referring to.
Right. Then I will say one of the reasons also that I would right now choose digital is because of one of the other things that I covet, and I mean that in a good sense, like it's a thing I long for. I do not want to go without this. I want to be present with people Monday through Friday. And I have not had that experience with physical churches. They only gather physically, therefore they do not think about gathering digitally. If I found a physical church that gathered Monday through Friday in a digital realm, I would be there on Sunday. So I could be physically present. But I would rather only go digitally present Monday through Friday and never go in person to have the daily connection relationally and spiritually with people.
Interesting. Because even with the my physical church that I go to and the members therein, right? Like, I agree, you should not make it just a Sunday thing, right?
Right.
Yeah. Having them in your life regularly
Yeah, and I don't think anyone disagrees with that. It's just a matter of the church has not always found avenues to help people connect relationally throughout Monday through Friday when we have gone from being a small rural farming community and everyone knew each other and you could see each other on a daily basis, or there's one factory in town that everybody works together. When we've gone and we have been transient, where you move to a town and know no one, we have changed the whole dynamics of being relationally present in a community with people Monday through Friday. As soon as you graduate high school, all of the connections are gone to be relationally connected with everybody in your community that is of your same age and of your same likeness and all of those kinds of things.
Interesting. Yeah. Zari in the chat saying that they're just as that online friends are just as real as in-person friends, but there are definitely elements missing. Yes. In
some level, what I'm saying is I'm choosing which I would rather miss.
Oh, okay. Now I get where you're getting at. Yes. So which would you rather? Yes. Optimally, you want all three, right? To be
optimally, I want all three. Absolutely.
Yes.
But I will give up the physical presence once a week for 1 hour to have the other two continuously Monday through Friday.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. And
now some other people
say that's like, it is doable to have
it is. Yeah. I just don't know anybody who is putting in the energy and the approach to say, when you leave on Sunday, you're not done with us. We're going to be with you in your pocket. That's the way I like to phrase it. Yeah. We're with you in your pocket Monday through Friday, so that we are with you and we're right here, and here's where we're connecting. And I guess I shouldn't say that I don't know any. I guess I do know a few exceptions that I know around the country that are trying to do those things. Not everyone's participating in the online community from the physical church. Some are trying to figure that out, but most aren't even exploring that.
Yeah. I mean, like some of my elders / pastors, we use the term interchangeably in my church, text me, for example, some like encouraging things, because like they know some of the struggles that I've been going through, and they give me some good reminders and things like that. So like there are ways that you can have that with your church, and I encourage y'all that are going to a physical church to do those kind of things. It's like you can also be the one that, and I need to do this more actually, is to text more of my fellow local church members, and try to be more relationally present with them throughout the week. That's a good point.
Yeah, but even think about if you have kids at home and you get home from work and the kids have homework and you got to feed dinner, and now you want to be both physically and relationally present with people in the church. You don't have the energy, you don't have the babysitter, and you can't do it on a daily basis with people. And I know most churches have tried to do small groups, and you can develop some really good relationships with small groups, and you can carry on those asynchronous relationships with people in a small group. I love those. I think we just can go beyond what maybe some of the best churches have been doing with small groups, because the smaller you get, the more relationally connected you are. And I think that's a good thing that we should be striving for.
Yes.
But we haven't had the mentality necessarily of intentionally saying, I daily want to be able to check in with you and engage. Now, anybody who's here, just think about what are the like, if you go through your Discord channel, and I know most of you here that are watching this live have a Discord that you go and attend. Not everybody does, but most of you do. What's the order of which you rank, and which one do you open first? Is it the one that only has 1 or 2 messages because you're like, click, I got those done and I don't have to look at that the rest of the day? Or is it the one that you might have missed part of the conversation and you want to join in what you've been missing since you went to bed because you missed something? Or when you get home from work or you're on break, you pull it out and you join the conversation. That's the church I want to be a part of.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so one of the stories that you were sharing with me when you and I were talking about this stuff at Reach was just about how when you were a pastor of a physical church, and you know how you ended up like feeling not very connected with people. You want to go on about that one?
Yeah, well, some of it goes to just think through the mathematics of this. I have, well, I'll just say the last church, couple of hundred people who are there. I know their names. I can relationally invest in them, but the only amount of time that I get to actually invest in them is in a 5-minute conversation before and after worship service on Sunday, because somebody else is coming up to have a conversation with me. So Sunday is off the board. I don't relationally get to develop relationships with people long term unless they're the person that shows up a half an hour to an hour early when nobody's there yet, and we can have a real conversation about what's going on, more than, hey, pray for me for this, pastor. So it has to take place outside of that Sunday morning, and most people are not doing that. So if I can get you to sit down with coffee for me, you know how long that's going to take to go through the whole church? It didn't happen, no matter my best efforts or my efforts of having every summer cookouts at my house for like 5-6 weeks or every other week all summer long and inviting people to come over. I only got the same few people that would show up. So in 3 years' time, the number of one-on-one or even small group conversations that I would have to develop with people couldn't be more than 12 people. It just would not. No, the amount of time to have 40 hours of relationship with people took years. And if I go online and I stream for 3 hours a day, I don't fully stream that much, but just do some math here. If I streamed for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, within a month's time, I'm over 40 hours. I have developed deeper relationships faster that don't feel transactional. When I was serving as pastor, a lot of them also felt transactional. So, I say this from the standpoint of the experience of a lot of my pastor friends in the middle of COVID, when suddenly people that they had brought to faith, baptized their kids, married their kids, all of those things, said, I disagree with you on this and I'm leaving the church. Like, I've known you for 30, 35 years. And now you're leaving the church because you didn't like a decision I made. It makes everything I ever did not relational. It was all transactional. And that's what I start reflecting on, is serving in the role where all of those things I was building relationally, actually transactional for the other side. And I thought they were relational. And I don't feel that on the other side of the screen from people. I don't feel any of these relationships are transactional because you don't have to be here. There is no people know that I'm going to church. There is no people know I'm showing up. You're showing up relationally for the people next to you, or you're showing up relationally for me. And we're developing that relationship in real time over weeks and months and years. That's why I want to get together with you physically.
Yes. And Lufai and Elaine, welcome in. Good to see you both in here. But yeah, and you're right. That's like, in order to maintain, there's no, like, my church is like 50, 60 people. So it's a pretty small church, and we all know each other pretty well. But even then, I only would say that I have a more, intimate relationship with a fraction of that, right?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Take Jesus, for example. Mm-hmm. He has the 72, and he has the 12, and he has the 3. Those are all different relational levels that he has. And then he has a crowd outside of that. So if you just take the Jesus model, you're going to have like your intimate circle, like your tight bond. You have a problem, you're going to these 3. That's your circle. Then you got your boys, you got your 12. Like, these are the hang. I want to hang with every week. I don't want to miss a week without hanging with these 12. And you got the 72. I know them really well. I know what's going on in their life. We don't talk all the time. I don't see them all the time, but I want to know, and I'm excited to hear every time I see them. And then you got the crowd out there as well that are relational, and depending on your personality, there's different levels of which you can maintain relationship and connection with them.
Yeah. But even then, like, you still have those, like, those inner circles and stuff with streaming as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah. So yes, you are engaging with people, but though like there is a degree to where it's superficial. Like there's this like concept of a parasocial relationship that you have with people online, right?
Yeah, well, I think you have that in person too. I mean, think about your friend who was dating someone and you were always hanging out and trying to double date, but you would never hang out with that person they were dating if they weren't in a relationship with your friend. And if you ever end up, stuck in that situation where your friend leaves for a minute and the two of you have to hold a conversation, you're like, I don't know what to talk about. We have nothing in common. So we have those parasocial relationships physically as well.
Yeah. This Kate plays in Mama Brickfield. It's good to see y'all in here. Welcome in.
Welcome in.
Yeah. But yes, oh, interesting. The pro has a question for you. What about service and tithes?
Oh, okay. Well, tithe will be a separate thing from service, but if you're serving, what are you supposed to be doing? You're supposed to be contributing to the building up of the body of Christ. I don't care where you do that. If you're contributing to the building up of the body of Christ, that's what you're supposed to be doing. And so that's what we're doing here, I hope, in this space and in this time, is contributing to the building up of the body of Christ. So I would say, in some ways, that's service. Now, if you're digitally, you need to figure out different ways in which you can serve. You could serve people by creating wonderful emojis because you have that skill, and you're going to bless a bunch of people by creating free emojis and giving to them, or giving them a discount rate. Or you are good at something else. You share your gifts within the body, and you just find ways to do that. So that's what I would say about serving. Maybe the same way if I was in a physical church and not a pastor, I might contribute my tech skills and run the sound booth or the camera operator. I could contribute that to someone else or a digital church who's there. Tithing is an interesting thing, whether or not you just mean that from the standpoint of giving, or if you're actually talking about, do you need to actually tithe or not? There's people with a lot of views. If you have a physical church teaching you something, I don't want to dissuade you of that, but I tend to go a different starting point, and God loves a cheerful giver. And since I have been blessed, I want to bless other people. And wherever I see God at work and he places on my heart to give, that is what I would call my cheerful giving. It's giving to the kingdom. It's giving to the blessing of other people, whether they are in a church or I give directly to a person. I don't think makes a difference. I know some churches teach that 10% has to go to the actual church you're attending. Sure. I'm not convinced of that. And I could go through a lot of examples, but that's a whole longer conversation.
Yeah, I for one, and again, this is a rabbit hole, see that the 10% is just to God's stuff in general. So a portion of my 10% goes to like women's pregnancy care centers, for example. But anyways,
right.
Going on this thing about sorry, now I've lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Oh yes. So going off of this thing about tithing though, what? Oh no, we said we're not getting into communion. Oh boy.
You got a quick question. I could try to tackle it, but I don't want to get into all the different viewpoints of what everyone believes. That's what I don't want to debate.
Yes. Yeah, because we already debated that on a separate video that is currently up on the VODs channel. So go watch that for that.
Yeah, go watch that one. Yes.
Yes. But anyways, I guess there are some churches, and we should say that there yes, Lufaya, transubstantiation. No, not today, Lufaya.
Oh.
But there are some that are in that transubstantiation and consubstantiation camps that would say that that could be an argument against digital as well. Is you want to have communion with one another, and even you could argue with the spiritual presence camp gets flaky.
Well, okay. There are ways around that actually.
Yeah.
Let's just take the standpoint of it has to be blessed by a priest. Doesn't matter which denomination uses priests. They all kind of have that thought. It has to be blessed by a priest. Fine. We have the priest bless it, and we mail it to every single person. So they have it. And now we gather together, and we all take communion at the same time. You could still solve the problem of doing it. And if you're in a large enough denomination, you just have it blessed at the high level, and everybody can order their own supplies and have them there. Now, depending on which view you get into, disposal and all of that problem becomes a different issue, but we're not going there.
Yeah. So there are creative ways to get around that, and it all really depends on which camp you fall in. For that, baptism is another one that, how do you baptize someone without physically doing so?
There's a number of ways to address that one. That's a whole nother, let's go down that rabbit hole. And I think some of it is really going to depend on how you view what's taking place. And let me just put it a different way. Gen Alpha, who's coming along, is never going to know a world that is only physical. They are always going to have a digital fingerprint and presence. They're not going to differentiate the same way that I do between when I'm physically present and when I am digitally present. They're not going to have those same barriers and distinctions because I know a time before it was possible. They're going to always see those things as possible. So if they are in a VR space and they see VR water poured on them, or they're immersed in it, whatever way that you're practicing it, they're not going to view it as unreal. They're going to view it as actual. And I pick on that one specifically rather than just say, hey, I go in a bathtub behind me and I put it on camera and we do that, even though the rest of the church might not be physically present, because I think that's an easier one for us to grasp.
Sure.
And to say that. Or I go and do an IRL stream down by the river and we do it there, and I either have another believer do it, or depending on denomination, I have someone who's ordained do it, whatever that title is, deacon, pastor, doesn't matter, elder, whatever you're comfortable with. There's ways to address that. If we first start with the standpoint of saying we're real relationships, this person is taking real steps of faith, and we want to help them acknowledge the real step of faith that they're taking, then we're solving the problem instead of arguing around whether we can or we can't. We are saying, just like the Ethiopian eunuch, what's to stop you from being baptized right now? And the answer is Philip didn't have one.
Gotcha. Yes, Denali saying the problem for him at least with communion is not being together, which Denali, I think you missed part of the conversation where we talk about 3 levels of presence. But though I guess this does bring up, so even if we are relationally present with one another, do you need to be physically present as well? Is there more to communion by being together?
Right. And the thing is I can talk through these things. I don't know that I'm convinced that there's one answer yet.
That's true.
So what I would say is I am convinced of where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am. And where 2 or 3 are gathered in Jesus' name, there is the presence of the church that is present there, whether it's digitally present, relationally present, spiritually present, physically present. God is present, Jesus is present, the Spirit is present. When 2 or 3 are gathered, that includes digitally. This is the church. Now, what I don't know is how does that apply to sacraments? And since we have different views on sacraments, I'm not trying to tell people there's one way to view this.
True.
So there are absolutely good arguments, and I'm not persuaded that I know the answer, but I am also not trying to solve the answer. I'm not trying to solve it and say, here's the problem, here's the answer. I would say if you are an independent church, not connected with a denomination, you get the freedom among the people there to decide how you're going to live out those things. of the sacraments. If you're connected to a body of the church, then depending on how your body of the church decides those things might be how you are able to do it. Some might have more freedom to the individual congregation to make a decision there that's not universally applied. Others have a hierarchy that everything comes from the top down, and they're going to tell you what's in bounds and what's out of bounds. So I'm not so concerned with I need to solve the sacraments, because when all else fails, hey, let's be connected with somebody in person and make sure we do those.
Yeah. And I don't think that there is a true conclusion to come to with that, but I guess just kind of as we wrap things up, because I'm realizing we are very over time.
Well, you should have known when you and I were going to chat, it was going to be a long time.
Oh yeah. Yes. And I was originally aiming for 90 minutes, and we were at 2.5 hours. Oh gosh, it exceeded my expectations, but in a great way. I do not regret it. But yes, I guess just kind of as we kind of wrap things up and try to draw some conclusions here, we should value physical presence, right? And so we shouldn't say that physical presence doesn't matter to our day-to-day lives, but at the same time, relational presence, we are relationally present with one another through this, so we shouldn't deny that either.
Absolutely. I think that, like I said, when we're having that discussion, I think that's the thing that the physical church and the people that are physical church only have overlooked is relational presence. I've often said something along these lines of what happened within COVID when churches went online and then they came back in person and people didn't return. Should have showed them they were not building relational presence with people. They were only giving religious goods and services. And so now that they've given the people religious goods and services in a different manner, they didn't have relational equity with you. So they don't have relational equity now. You're demanding them come back in presence so that you can have relational presence. You don't have it. You're only demanding physical presence. You still have no relational presence. So they have no desire to come in person. They just want the religious goods and services you were giving them. So relational presence is a real thing online. That's what they should have learned. What they learned instead was physical presence is we got to double down on it, because we don't have relational presence and we don't have spiritual presence. So you have to have physical presence, because that's the only thing we have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not picking on them. It's they have not realized it.
Yes. Oh gosh, sorry. Do I open up that can of worms you have just put in front of me about digital marriage? Let's not.
Nope.
No. Don't do it. Yeah.
We're not touching that. That's another podcast. Come back later.
Would you like to pray for us as we wrap things up?
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone has a prayer request, go ahead and put that in the stream as well. And I will keep my eyes open. So if anyone does put anything in there that you'd like prayer for, I will be able to read that as we pray.
Well, here let's do a prayer that goes on the recording, and then those ones.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah. Okay. God, I just thank you for this conversation, for those who have been here as we've been discussing this, engaging around being the church, and how do we do that, and how do we move into digital spaces, and what are the best practices that we can have to bless the body, to bless one another, and to be everything that you've created us to be. I thank you for Fedorable Will and inviting me on, and just his heart for serving you, and that you will just bless this podcast to many people, that you will multiply his impact and influence over others. And thank you that you have people out there who are gathering together in different places, like in Reach Conference, that we were able to get together so we can build the kingdom up with more and more of us following after you and serving the whole body. Just pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.